Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode 122 of the Thoughtium Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. I am Anthony Ewing, CEO and founder here at Thoughtium, and we are thrilled to come to you all live on a week-to-week basis. We go live to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all social media every Thursday at 3 o'clock Central. And each week we bring new leaders to the table to talk about those leadership topics that matter most to you all. And here we are 122 episodes in. And what we're most thrilled about is this growing Navigating Now community, those leaders that have come to the table and shared their perspective and now have come back to the table and shared their progress. And today we're going to be doing a little bit more of kind of revisiting with one of our tried and true Navigating Now guest, a leader in financial services, a futurist, somebody that speaks very eloquently to a bit of the mentality and even the psychology of how we interact with the future and how we engage with our wealth and our money. So many things to talk about here. And we're going to be introducing Jim Lee. He is the founder of StratFi. He's a great member of our Navigating Now community. And Jim today is going to be talking about everyday investments that matter. So we'll touch on a lot here, the future and how it should or maybe should not influence your investment decisions. We're going to talk a little bit about new and emerging technologies and how maybe that is potentially shaping the way that we think about wealth management. So many great topics, and I guess selfishly, I probably have a few questions of Jim for my own, as always. So, Jim, we want to welcome you to the roundtable again. We're so excited to have you with us today.
So much fun. Love talking to you. Always fun.
Absolutely. So, for those out there that want to first get to know you a little bit more, tell us about you and what you're up to at StratFi.
Sure. Yeah. So I run a boutique investment advisory firm focused on what happens next. As you mentioned, I'm a professionally trained futurist, and I've been in the business of advising clients on money for, 30 years. It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, so futurist. I know we did a little bit of defining of terms the last time you were on, which is about a year ago. But for those, and ironically, I think we're hearing this term and this practitionership come up more and more these days. But you've been a futurist for a while. Tell us about kind of how you got involved in this vocation, and maybe how has it evolved for you over the years?
Sure, sure. So, being a futurist is a thing. There's a graduate degree that you can get in foresight. There's only one program in the country. It's at University of Houston. There are about 30 universities worldwide that offer a similar graduate degree. And strategic foresight is using what we know about the future to make better decisions today. And that involves finding the big opportunities so that you can be in the right place at the right time. It also identifies risks and how to manage those.
Yeah, and the future is a more clear topic today than I think it ever has been, or maybe unclear. But there's just so much involved in bringing we call it bringing the outside in. And as business leaders, it's so important that we're able to kind of stand at the doorstep of our role, our function, and even our firm, our company that we work for, and look up and out and almost kind of look into the horizon and bring back the most salient and high
Yeah.
impact trends or market happenings that will affect our future. And this is work that we struggle to do because sometimes we're just so stuck in the tactical day to day. So, Jim, how do you keep your eye on that horizon, and what are maybe some of those common practices or tools and resources that you use to make sure that you're bringing the outside in?
Yeah, that's actually one of the tools and techniques that we use here, and that is horizon scanning. And that
Oh,
is to
cool.
see how the landscape has changed. And what happens is you put together a lot of these notes and little tidbits of information. You're like a magpie of trivia,
Hmm.
and you start to see where things intersect and what they have in common and how they connect to each other. So on my wall is a map of mega trends and technologies for the next 30 years. as a visualization of the London subway system. And in each
Cool.
major rail line represents a trend going from the present, being downtown, to the future, being the suburbs. And where these lines intersect are the metro stations, right? And
Mm.
sometimes the biggest trends aren't the trends that you expect, but they're where those trends intersect and reinforce each other. That's really what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I've seen a lot of different kind of nifty visuals, and sometimes it really does help to have a bit of a framework. At Thought Team, we work with our clients on a little bit of this horizon scanning, and we use a model called the circles of context or concentric circles.
Mhm.
And visually, it has you and your team kind of at the core. It's the smallest circle, and then around it is your function, your department within the organization, and then the organization, the industry, and the global megatrends. And sometimes that framework helps to see that there are so many different circles of context. They are always in flight. They're always in motion, and we need to pay attention. And when we can start to kind of align those circles, or even understand how those circles are impacting each other, we can be better strategists. We can be better leaders. We can
Yeah,
have a
you're
more
connecting
clear
the
and
dots.
direct perspective.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about some of these future trends. So, as you look at that subway map, Jim, maybe what are one or two of those trends that are out there that we really should be paying attention to?
Yeah. Well, there's a few that are moving super quickly at one point. And one is digitization, right? Digitization of everything, whether it's work or whether it's money or whether it's real estate. And you and I originally met through the NFT community, and that the Thaudium NFT was my first NFT purchase ever, and is how we met. I had bought the
Yeah.
NFT. I gave you a phone call. We had this great conversation, and I'm finding more and more that NFTs are at the intersection of a whole bunch of emerging technologies.
Mm.
And we sort of trivialize them when we think of these little memes or profile shots
Mhm.
or avatars. But when you map out the use of NFTs, you find that they're central to things like digital identity, Web 3.0, the metaverse,
Mhm.
tokenization of assets. And I think we're going to move from a situation where NFTs are rare or unusual to just being buried under them, right? And having a digital wallet like a phone book full of
Sure.
these things.
Yeah, and maybe from there we'd go to a world where NFT technology is far more integrated in things like real estate transactions or purchasing insurance, to where it's less of a collectible and more of the underpinning technology.
Yeah, yeah, it's a functional proof of ownership, proof of purchase
Right.
seal, as it were.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
like to say that every technology starts out as a toy. And we've been playing around with NFTs now for a few years, and at some
Yeah.
point, they're going to have some real functional use.
1,000%. And you and I talked about this. As leaders, our ability to, we call it, demonstrate a bit of that creative confidence, put pen to paper, and really work with and get our hands on new and emerging technologies. It's really important. Myself as a business owner and as a creator, it's important to not only have that understanding, but you know to continue to be in that the craft of discovering and trying and understanding. And I'll say that the Thought Team NFT program is a perfect example of something that clearly there was no formula to. There still isn't. Clearly there wasn't a very defined kind of ROI or even value proposition in terms of how much time and resources we put into developing this program, or even, Jim, what you would get out of it, right? Now, if I'm not mistaken, you simply went on OpenSea and searched for the least expensive NFT, and you found ours, which is so
That
cool.
was the process. Yeah, yeah. And I got the
But
most value. I got a lot of bang for one buck with that. Yeah.
yeah, well, but you engaged with this technology the same way that we went into creating it, which is really to explore, to build, our collective kind of muscles, if you will, in new technologies, and to get ahead in a way that once this technology becomes less of a toy and becomes more of a tool, we have the knowledge and the understanding, and in this case, the belief of the technology.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you can't innovate unless you're willing to play, unless you're willing to go out and have
Yeah,
some fun. I mean, if you are
yeah,
working and if you are all really focused on a particular objective, you're not going to learn anything new. And you
yeah,
really put yourself out there and doing something that I haven't seen any other management consulting group
yeah.
do, and came up with something really kind of interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with it. We also laugh that it's this really kind of abstract out there technology that's on the blockchain, and it involves these tokens and these passwords and things of that nature. For you to get set up, Jim, today with our NFT, probably 10x more difficult than it will be in just a couple of years.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what it has facilitated is some of the most tried and true aspects of business and even social relationships. It has facilitated connection. It has facilitated community. It has facilitated a bit of kind of identity and investment in our brand. What it has not facilitated is transaction or significant wealth, or even some sort of like exchange, right, of goods or services. And that's what we're so proud of in terms of there are real ways you can leverage these technologies. We hear these stories of these technologies either putting people out of work or producing overnight sensations of wealth. What we hear very little of is how these technologies can support and perpetuate tried and true aspects of who we are as humans.
Yeah, yeah. So when I look at NFTs, I look at what people have bought. Um, they're primarily based on avatars. They're also based on communities, and they're based on how people self-identify.
Mm,
And people will work with
yeah,
other people that belong to the same tribe. And with
yeah,
NFTs, you create that tribe.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. Um, we slipped into this rabbit hole last year when you and I were talking, and we probably could have gone on for a couple hours on NFT and Web3. I want to shift courses because today's episode is all about kind of small decisions that we can make, small smart decisions that we can make to continue to support our own sense of wealth management. I'm curious, Jim, as you work with your clients. One of the things that I'm so fascinated about your work at StratFi is that you kind of sit at this intersection of bringing future insights forward to help make more informed decisions, being a great kind of custodian of wealth management, but as well, if I'm not mistaken, you understand the kind of the psychology of investing, and that's something that I'm so fascinated with because I have my own ridiculous quirks and completely irrational quirks when it comes to investing that in so many cases play against me.
I think everyone has them. You know it.
But everyone
Everyone.
has them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about that, and how has the, psychology of investing shifted over the last few years, or has it not?
Sure, sure. So I think when you get right down to it, we're all a little bit crazy, when it comes to money.
Yeah.
And to be specific, we all have multiple personality disorder, MPD. And the reason is when I meet with someone new, I ask them, what it is that they'd like to have done with their money, and they say, "Hey, we want growth, we want income, and we want absolute security." Okay, and you can't do all three of those. You could do one, maybe two, but you can't do all three.
Mm.
So the standard approach in my business is to do, a risk assessment profile, right? So you can figure
Mhm.
out where people's pain points are. And what I did is I gamified the process, right? Like some of these role playing games that we played when we were 12, okay? And you
Yep.
have 10 personality points and you assign them to characters who represent who you are. Dividend Dave likes, blue chip stocks. Mathematical Martin likes index funds. Okay. And you assign these personality points in a way that kind of represents who you are. And in that process, you really build your own portfolio, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that makes it real. I think that makes it real for folks. It also gives folks permission to embrace and almost identify with who they are, kind of innately. Um, I do think that the personality of who we are really shows up in some really interesting ways when it comes to our money, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
For example, someone like myself who clearly, starting a business from scratch, and taking on a team and different risk in that realm makes me quite an entrepreneurial, open to risk type of a person innately. That's who
Yeah,
I am. But man, when it comes to investing, am I really really slow to kind of like dip my toes in, and as well, I find that I'm far more willing and open to invest when it comes to technology that is driving decision making versus humans, which is so interesting. Automated wealth management
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
that I've
It's big.
I've had I've had such an easy time kind of getting into, um, versus sitting down and kind of having a guy, if you will, and getting a beer on a quarterly basis to review the portfolio. So talk
Mm.
about multiple personality disorder, right? Like I'm risk averse when it comes to investing, and at the same time I have such a kind of set it forget it, let the robots manage it type of a mentality. So
Yeah,
how do
I
you
think
deal
you're onto
with clients in that way?
yeah, yeah. I think you're onto something there, Anthony, because what I have seen is that the robot wars with intelligence has already started, and the bots won a long time ago. Okay,
Mm.
so NFTs started coming out like around 2005 or so, and if you look at the top 10 index funds, ETFs, okay, top 10 ETFs, all 10 of them are algorithmically managed. Okay, so the era
Mhm.
of sort of the cult manager is kind of fading away a little bit. Um, so I find that really interesting. And the other observation I have is that last year was the year when everyone got to find out what their risk tolerance really is. You can
Yeah.
say that you're aggressive, but if you got through last year okay, then you're really aggressive, okay? If you didn't, then,
Yeah.
maybe you're in a different category.
Yeah. Yeah, super, super interesting. Jim, I'm making some parallels here. I mean, clearly you're in the client services business. We are as well too, and it really feels like almost the preferences and the behaviors of our clients are shifting so drastically from day to day.
Mhm.
And a lot of that was facilitated with COVID and the way that we engage, and the way that we design and facilitate is so different today than it ever has been before. Our clients have far less time. They have far less willingness to have the kind of continued conversation, if you will. Some of our clients are really challenged to step into multi-dimensional conversations. They're kind of just moving from one discussion to the next, and we've had to really hold space for that. I'm curious, how has your relationship with your clients evolved over the last few years as technology has sped things up and the world has been on tilt?
Yeah, I think people are overwhelmed right now. They have too many choices. Alvin
Yeah.
Toffler referred to this as future shock, which sounded really sexy at the
Mm.
time, but now it's just kind of overwhelming because we know what that feels like. And, it's important to work with someone or with an organization that can simplify these things for you and
Yeah.
make it manageable and know that you're covered, right?
Hmm.
So,
You had talked. We were connecting before the show, and you had talked about how one of the things that you really got your eye on is AI and the impact that it will have, not just on your business, but on the way we all do business. Can you comment a little bit on that? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of, um, as with any new technology, there's a little bit of this kind of like spike in awareness. And then it's almost like immediately shot down, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
right,
AI will never replace,
right,
humans, et
right.
cetera. And then there's maybe a little bit of a lull, and then we find that nice kind of balance of leveraging the new technology. Do you think that AI will follow that same trajectory, or do you think that it will disrupt a lot sooner than we think?
We've had a few of those waves already, and the ongoing joke is that AI has been the next big thing for like the last 50 years, just like
Yeah.
nuclear fusion. Okay. And nuclear fusion happened like last month. It's like, holy cow, we have done it. And I thought that was like the biggest thing in a long time. And then Chat GPT-3 came out. You're like, oh, this is the bigger thing here, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that it is revolutionizing how we do search. Instead of just searching for the website, we search for the answers and we actually search for a sequence of answers or a sequence of actions that we need to take.
Hmm.
I think that that's really big. We've also sort of hit that inflection point in what they refer to as the singularity, where
Hmm.
Chat GPT is really good at writing computer code. In fact, you tell ChatGPT what you want to do, and it will write that code for you in a way that works. And
Hmm.
I don't know if it's applying it to itself or not, but when it does, the genie's out of the bottle.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really fascinating. We are so quick to see new technologies as what they will replace.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we fail to see what they might support or augment in the time being. And I'll give you a perfect example. I think one of the great kind of applications of AI technology is happening in video production, particularly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There are, I mean, how easily today it is to transcode a video like this with subtitles. It's actually happening in real time, which just 18 months ago was not even a possibility. That opens up a whole bunch of opportunities for different types of accessibility in terms of how people communicate and language translation, et cetera. There are what I'm fascinated with, and this is maybe for our viewers a way that you can get closer to this technology. Find one or two easy to use tools around this technology and apply them in just a slice of your life. Chat GPT is not going to completely take over the way that you search, and you're not necessarily going to be able to build the next great computer program within 24 hours of understanding the technology. But there are smaller applications out there that can support some of the things that we do day to day. And in video production, there's a program out there. I believe it's called Descript, and it's a fascinating application of AI technology where we would shoot a video like this, Jim, and the video then would immediately be transcribed into a script, and the piece of software puts the video next to the script, and you edit the video based on the script and not the
Oh,
video.
so you can take the words out or add the words
Yes.
in, and then that will
Yes.
figure out where to cut and paste. Yeah, that makes
And it
sense.
is, I mean, it just mind blowing in terms of taking video production and video production workflow and completely
Mhm.
flipping it and allowing you to make edits based on very particular segments of the video. There's even an automated filter that will automatically take out filler words like and and just prior to this piece of software, we would have to roll through this footage and make cuts manually. And it's like that's the value add of a new
That's
technology
labor
that
intensive.
I want to know about.
Yeah, that is labor intensive. Yeah, a friend of mine once referred me to, I think it was a group called Firefly or Fireflies.ai, which
Hmm.
is a transcription of visual meetings and phone conversations, and you just have an instant
Yeah,
record of all the notes that you'll ever
yeah,
need, make it searchable and that kind of thing. Yeah, it is amazing, and some of the visualization tools that are coming out. Oh my gosh! So
yeah.
I was judging a foresight competition for different works, visualizations of the future, and already like 2 or 3 months ago, futurists were using things like Midjourney or Dali
Mm.
to use prompts, verbal prompts to visualize different scenarios and different futures, and they were really good. I had one friend of mine who did kind of the wackiest application of Chat GPT, and he wanted to write about a history of the United States in the year 2050 from the perspective of a Filipina American president. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. So we had this whole interview, this conversation that went on for pages. And I went through the future history of America, and there was nothing in there that was like completely unusual or out of the blue. It
Mm,
actually made a pretty reasonable baseline forecast. Okay.
hmm.
And that baseline forecast seems to represent the consensus of the internet today. So
Hmm.
it was a little less creative than we would expect, but a pretty reasonable starting point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we have a question here that came in from Nicole, who wanted to
Yeah.
ask Chat GPT and the biggest risks we must consider based on its functionality. And I think that there are some risks here that our brains are being hacked. Okay, we used to hack computers, and I think computers are hacking our brains. They know where soft spots are. So increasingly, yeah, you're going to see pitches. You're going to see more hyper-targeted marketing. You're also going to see more automated customer service coming out of Chat GPT as well. And I think there's a lot of potential here for chaos if you're in the working world, because all of the basic quotidian day-to-day stuff, okay, that you could just kind of do from memory or rote or whatever, that all gets automated. And what we get to do is put out fires all day. Okay. So I think the working world is going to be a lot more challenging than it used to be. Andrew Hines, who's at the University of Houston, kind of breaks the future workforce into three classifications. He calls them the warriors, he calls them the giggers, and the bots. Okay. And the warriors are the startup guys like Andrew, who are working crazy hours and they have a lot of skin in the game and equity at stake, and they're just doing it. And then the giggers are kind of called in to help out to deal with specific tasks. And then the bots are, the AIs and the chat GPTs and, the physical robots of the world. And that's kind of what the future workforce looks like.
Hmm. And I think there could be some harmony, in that future. I also think, this question's a good one in terms of, biggest risks. I think when we think risks, it's, are the robots going to take over, and are they going to hack our brains, et cetera. I also think maybe one more, a little more benign risk is that we are going to be dealing with a bit of information overload. So, Jim, you mentioned the fact that now data dialogue can be captured in real time, um, and processed and kind of fed back to us. You can imagine even in the workplace, every one of our conversations being transcribed and available. And yes, that could support, meeting notes and capturing uh, relevant information. But how do we, as humans, and how do our human brains keep up with the amount of
Mhm.
information that's going to be synthesized in real time? As it is now, AI is allowing every one of my voice memos
Yeah, yeah.
in Slack to be transcribed, and it's almost overwhelming because you're hearing it and reading it at the same time, and it's like a whole new level of information. So I think we as humans are going to have to find ways to regulate and filter the information that's just being produced at scale through AI.
Well, that's kind of, I think, what happens next, specifically to marketing, is that
Mm,
the
yeah,
AI will likely become the gatekeeper for a lot of consumers.
that's
So
scary.
instead of marketing to the business or marketing to the consumer, you're marketing to the algorithm, who then tells the consumer
Oh,
whether you're worth paying attention to. And that
yeah.
happened in investment management a long time ago, right? And
Hmm.
it's happened in advertising with Google search rankings already. You're trying to
Yeah,
check the boxes to keep the algorithm fed and happy.
yeah. I so appreciate these conversations, and the reason why is because it really does keep you sharp. In our line of work, we're essentially designing and delivering learning experiences for folks, and we're
Yeah.
constantly infusing these learning experiences with this type of outside in dialogue. It really helps you get out of the mental patterning and behaviors that you have as a leader, as a teammate. You go to the same process and workflow. You go to the same kind of tactical tasks on a day-to-day basis. And when you can step out of that and you can almost fill the space with a little bit of the what if and the unknown, it can alter the trajectory or the energy of the way that you're interacting as a leader. And you'll find that your conversations become a little bit more robust. Maybe you're encouraging some of your teammates or colleagues to step into these conversations. It's my favorite. Stepping outside of my day to day and doing this horizon scanning is one of my favorite things to do. And I appreciate you doing it with us.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Jim, how can people find you? Those folks with um, multiple personality disorder that want to kind of sift through how they go about, managing their portfolio and even thinking about the future.
Yeah, so I am available on LinkedIn, one of many James Lees, by the way. So I'm in Wilmington, Delaware. I'm with StratFi, Strategic Foresight Investments. I also have a new book that's out. If you find this sort of thing interesting, it's called Foresight Investing, a complete
Mm.
guide to finding your next great trade. And that's available now on Amazon. It has received some recognition. And that was my COVID project. It was either finish the book or start a drinking habit. You think about it. Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't both at the same time.
No,
It'd be a
no,
different book,
no,
maybe.
not both. That would have made editing really hard. No.
That's awesome. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time and for your insights. We're so thrilled to have you a part of the network. We're also excited that you continue to be an NFT holder and a leader that we can tap into for our ability and desire to kind of look up and out. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to wrap things up here. We just appreciate everybody who has joined. I see some folks from LinkedIn have checked in and YouTube as well. This is 122 episodes in, and we're definitely not stopping here. Each week at 3 o'clock, we bring a new perspective from leaders that are concerned about and thinking about the same things that we are. We do want to announce that next week we're kicking off our winter perspective series. And for those of you who have been a part of a perspective series, this is something that we're extremely excited about. And we feel can bring a lot of value to you, whether you are a leader within an organization or somebody that is just looking to continue to build kind of required skills. One of those required skills is to understand how to navigate and how to optimize, our kind of hybrid workplace. And to do that, we're going to bring forward this 3-part perspective series that kicks off next week, February 9th. Our very own Nicole Deal will be hosting this perspective series, and she's going to be bringing leaders from both in and outside of Thoughtium to share how we can empower our people to do their best work in today's hybrid environment. She'll be ending the series with Carly and Rob Toomey, who are the founders of Type Coach. This is a tool that we've been using a lot to open brand new discussions around communication effectiveness and how our communication behaviors shape how we show up, whether in person or virtually. And Nicole, recently certified in Type Coach, is going to have an incredible conversation with Carly and Rob. So tune into the Perspective series. It's 3 parts in nature. It's also supported by an article to get the conversation started with your team and a toolkit then that you can bring to your team to test and try some of the practices. You can find these episodes at thoughttium.com/live. And if you're interested in any of our previous perspective series, you can find those at thoughttium.com/perspectives. So with that, Nicole, we'll see you all next week to kick off our perspective series. I will see you in a few weeks, and we hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week and a great weekend. We'll talk to you.